apparently, despite all of their talk, the Democrats don't care about optics. They do virtually nothing for all of this past year. They don't pass a budget specifically, and on purpose they don't pass a budget because it's an election year. And they don't want people to know who they are and what they stand for, because they would have been shellacked even greater had they done so, had they put together a budget as required by law prior to the election. So they put it off, they don't do anything, and they come back in what technically is an unlawful session of Congress. Congress is over. The new Congress is who should be dealing with this. They come back with this technically unlawful lame duck, and they try to cram all of this stuff, all their pet projects, 10%, which is, I guess, is what their take has always been. 10% of the 1.1 trillion, of their 1.13 trillion of this continuing resolution is earmarks. And a survey, an examination has shown that 99% of the earmarks are all Democrat earmarks. Now, we warned everybody this is what was going to happen. This was the purpose of the lame duck, was for these guys to come back during Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and try to ram all this stuff in. And they've done it even worse. Now they're trying to make next year's budget theirs. They didn't do a budget. They lost. Well, folks, even Mike McConnell got ticked off about this. The Senate, well, that's what Obama called him, Mike McConnell, the Senate minority. It takes a lot. It really takes a lot to get Mitch McConnell upset. And this has even ticked him off. No matter how they spin this, they can come off as only duplicitous and desperate, which is, of course, what they are. Great to have you here, Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Great to have you here with us. Make no mistake, we cannot separate the effort here at this tax bill compromise, which is now a spending bill, and the Democrats' continuing resolution. They're all tied to the same strategery. And the same strategery is for the Democrats continue to enact legislation as though they were reelected in November, when they weren't. Now, this is serious stuff here, folks, and this is classic. It is exactly who they are. Imagine buying a house, and the weekend before closing, the current owner starts a remodeling project, making changes that you don't want. That would not be allowed. That would not be permitted. That's as close to an analogy as what I can come up with here. We have a new owner, Tea Party Republican, scheduled to move in January. Dingy Harry mucking up the house that he still owns out of spite. The Republicans ought to just shut down every project in the Senate and refuse to move in with Dingy Harry's remodeling ideas. Just stop it. Just shut it down. This is an abomination. It is outrageous. It is antithetical to exactly what the American people voted for in November. This is a giant finger in everybody's face, a slap in the face. The Democrats are, again, as I say, they've thrown optics out the window. This is who they are, and they're telling us plain as day. Precisely who they are. There is a way to deal with vindictive bullies, and it isn't to stand aside while they complete their rampage. And it isn't to use the same old, well, you know, bipartisanship, we get along, we'll be bigger than they are. This is the ultimate cram down. This Congress has been foreclosed on. And now this foreclosed on Congress is knocking down the walls. I mean, they're doing everything they can to destroy everything you voted for and to set up what you voted for being impossible to happen with this outrageous continuing resolution. I mean, what they are doing, they're trying to cram everything that they wanted into this. The DREAM Act, don't ask, don't tell, all of these things that nobody wants. They're trying to cram it all in with this continuing resolution. And the Republicans are ticked off. They're up to speed about it. They understand what's going on. It is time. You know, this is not a lame duck. This is an insane duck, Democrat Congress, and it's time to shut them down. See, I've heard reports Kit Bond, Voinovich, Bob Bennett, Susan Collins may vote for this cluster bus bill. It is a cluster bus. Omnibus, it's a cluster bus bill. This is why the Limbaugh rule exists. Always vote for the most conservative Republican. The rhinos are liberals too cowardly to accurately label themselves, clever enough to know which political party makes the most electable in their districts. This is just, ticks me off here, folks. And frankly, it has also ticked off some of the Republicans. I remember how people laughed when we worried about all the damage they could do during a lame duck Congress. I remember. What are you laughing at in there? It is. This is the. Well, and I remember being laughed at. I remember when I tried to tell people this is what they were going to. Rush, come on. They know they lost. This is. They're going to want to get home for Christmas. And you don't understand. Well, I think more and more people do understand exactly who these people are. This is the story on it all from the Hill. Senate Democrats have filed a $1.1 trillion omnibus spending bill. It's almost 2,000 pages. And it hasn't, actual legislation hasn't been spelled out. It's just a blueprint. Nobody wants anybody to read this. They just want it voted on, up or down. $1.1 trillion omnibus spending bill that would fund the government through fiscal year 2011. That's all of next year. That's through September 30th. This is the Democrats saying, we don't care who you voted for. We're going to do the budget next year. Sorry, guys, you punted. You refused to do a budget because you didn't want to stand for re-election. Well, this is what they would have done had they had the guts and the courage to do a budget before the election. And they would have been shellacked even more. 1,924-page bill includes funding to implement the sweeping health care reform bill that Congress passed earlier this year, as well as additional funds for IRS agents. And these IRS agents, undoubtedly more of the health care reform enforcers. You can bet that there will not be another significant bill introduced in Congress for the rest of time that doesn't throw more money at health care reform. The package drew a swift rebuke from Senator John Thune, Republican South Dakota chairman, the Senate Republican Policy Committee. He said the attempt by Democrat leadership to rush through a nearly 2,000-page spending bill in the final days of the lame duck session ignores the clear will expressed by the voters this past election. This bill is loaded up with pork projects, shouldn't get a vote. Congress should listen to the American people. Stop this reckless spending. This is why I said last week, do the same thing, a tax bill. Just dump it. Just forget it. It's no longer a tax bill. It's not a tax cut anyway. Wait for the cavalry. Wait till next January. That's what the Democrats know. That's what Obama knows. That's why they're all trying to get this done now. They're trying to get this done now while they still have a chance with Democrat majorities everywhere. Thune has called for a short-term funding measure, free of earmarks, to keep the government operating beyond December 18th when the current continuing resolution expires. Get one written through February and then go from there. But this omnibus package must be rammed through to keep the incoming Congress from setting the budget for almost half of their 2-year term. That's what this is. This is Dingy Harry and the Democrats basically, we know you won the election, but screw you and screw the American people. We're going to have a budget written and we're going to force you into approving it that has our objectives and our ideals, which are grow the government, expand the size of government, limit and take away even more of your freedom because you people are a bunch of idiots and dolts, as evidenced by the fact that you defeated us. So there is anger, recrimination, payback, all these things. This is a budget aimed at the American people as well as the Republican Party, which basically tells us to go to hell. This is the Democrat Party saying, go to hell, people. It's what happens when you don't elect us. We don't care about you, and we never have cared about you. We care about us. We don't care this country's being destroyed by us. That's our intention all along. That's how we get ultimate power. Despite strong opposition from Thune and Senate GOP leader Mike McConnell, several Republicans are considering voting for it. That's my intention, said retiring Senator Bob Bennett, Republican Utah. Of course he would. He's ticked off, too. He was sent packing. Bennett said that earmarks in the bill might give some of his GOP colleagues reason to hesitate, but it wouldn't affect his vote. Yeah, it'll be tough for some, but not for me, because I lost. So screw you. You send me packing, fine. Here's what it's going to cost you. This is a spite budget. This is a budget that's got nothing to do with what's good for this country or nothing. This is just spite. Mr. Bennett is only too happy to punish the voters who showed him the door, and he's making it plain. GOP Senators Kit Bond, Missouri, also on the way out. George Voinovich, Ohio. Susan Collins, Maine, also told The Hill on Tuesday they would consider voting for the omnibus, but they want to review it before making a final decision. Yada. They want to review it. Can't read it if they put it right in front of you. Don't they realize, these people, here's what we've learned from Pelosi and Reid and Obama. Like, Ms. Collins, you are not allowed to review the bill until it's passed. You're not allowed to see what's in it until it's passed. That's the new standard. Nancy Pelosi, we got to pass the health care bill before we know what's in it. Same thing here. But still, you have to wonder who was able to write these 2,000 pages in just 1 week. You have to also wonder how anybody would have even had the time to read it. According to other reports, this monstrosity has more than 6,000 earmarks. There are reportedly at least $8 billion. Actually, I think it's more than that now, $8 billion worth of earmarks. It includes at least $1 billion in additional spending for Obamacare. So who are the greedy people now? Where's the concern for the deficit? So I told you yesterday, the greed in this country resides on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. That's where the greed is. Remember, my friends, remember how they laughed when we were worried about all the damage that could be done by a lame duck Congress? How many trillions is this lame duck session going to cost us so far? And not just measured in money. If this thing actually gets rammed through and passes, do you realize the new Congress that was elected has nothing to say about anything fiscal next year? Nothing. Because this handles it all. How much more destruction can these people do to the country in their final days?